think they could keep this amount of races. I think they have to go through the calendar and overall look at tracks and track layouts and whether it's worth keeping that or bringing in a different one. Like, why is Portimao still not on? Every race at Portimao was a good race.
Yeah.
Why is
Turkey
not back on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you've got to look. These tracks worked. They were good races. What happened to Germany? Where's that gone?
Here's a controversial one for you. Would you swap out any of those tracks for Monaco?
Monaco as a race is boring. But I can see why you keep it for the spectacle, the money, and the qualifying is on the edge.
Yeah.
So,
as a race, it's butter.
As a race, it's so boring.
Can we just have a qualifying, right? And then
quali in Monaco, race in Turkey.
Race in Turkey, yeah. There you go. That'll do. Right.
No, I wouldn't swap out for Monaco. But, like, there are a few tracks. They're a bit...
Yeah. Like, I'd swap out France.
For a Turkey, maybe.
For a Turkey
or
or
a Portugal.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Or a... what's it called?
Even Spain's getting a bit boring for me now.
Yeah.
The only thing that I reckon the teams really like Spain is because it was a good track for all different types of circuits. You got your high speed, you got your slow speed corners, you got
good testing.
It's a good testing track.
It's good for MotoGP as well.
Yeah.
And F2 goes there. I think F3 goes there as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like.
I think a couple are getting a bit.
Yeah, they're getting a bit ropey, aren't they? The thing is, these new cars.
I think Baku has slowly been getting worse year in, year out. Getting worse and worse every year.
I love street circuits, but
I do. I think Singapore still works. I like the changes that they made.
Well, that's because every single time we go to Singapore, this always happens. The best car that season always, for some reason, doesn't work in Singapore.
Yeah,
whether it's Mercedes, because Mercedes never did well there in their dominance reign. But they won a few times. But
I mean,
yeah,
you had a.
That's Lewis Hamilton. That's Lewis Hamilton, not the car. Lewis Hamilton.
You can't say that was the fucking car.
No, it wasn't. That car was nowhere. That Mercedes, honestly, a lot of the time was nowhere. It was Seb or it was a bit of Red Bull in there.
Yeah.
And then this year, for some reason, Red Bull nowhere and Carlos just out of nowhere. And McLaren, Lando. So yeah, Singapore works, I guess. As long as the fast teams stop winning there.
Yeah, I think Brazil this year was a bit dead.
Now Brazil's always a great track though.
Brazil's a great track, but it was dead this year, and I was quite sad.
I didn't think it was a bad race. I like Brazil.
I didn't enjoy it.
I think Brazil's always a great race. Usually.
For me, it wasn't as good as what it has been.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, Brazil's made itself to be a top tier race, and I feel like it just fell below this year.
When it has an average one, it's like, oh, it's poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's an issue now with Brazil. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So, shorter calendar, but replace some of the tracks. If you are going to have a longer calendar.
Again, I'm happy with this amount. The only thing I feel like they're on about, aren't they, like adding in Africa, which I think they need to.
Yes.
They need an African
There's no
race.
tracks in Africa.
No.
It's the only continent, apart from Antarctica.
I think we need to, but I don't think it needs to be a 25 race season. I think you got to put it in for another track.
You got to put it in for a European one, don't you?
I think so.
Probably.
Your European one that you would choose is France at the moment.
It's annoying because what's the other track in France called? The last race was 2008.
Yeah, no, I'm gone.
That wasn't too bad. I thought it was a decent track. That.
Can't.
It's gonna come to me. No, I don't know, but either that one. It's sad because obviously France is a massive part of Formula One. Always has been, drivers and the country itself. Obviously,
Yes.
Monaco's in France as well.
There you go. We got Monaco. Screw it.
So it's like there's
Monaco's
the
its
French
own country, though.
It is, yeah, but it's like
we don't want any
French
Monegasque.
locals.
Yeah,
Though.
but we don't want Monegasques coming at us.
No, sorry, Monegasques. There's not enough of
you're
you.
your own people.
Yes.
There you go.
There's not the French are a massive part of Formula One.
They are.
And it's kind of like how everyone's campaigning.
Renault Alpine, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of how like people are campaigning to get Germany back on the calendar, because Germany is a massive part of Formula One. Obviously, Michael Schumacher, Mercedes-Benz, Vettel. You know, Germany's a massive part of Formula One's history.
Hockenheim's a good track.
Yeah, and the Nürburgring as well.
Nürburgring,
and so it'd be sad to see France go, because France is a massive part of Formula One, but the track is horrendous.
It's not performing.
It's horrendous. It's so bad. They need to, and I'd rather see Turkey or Portugal there in its place.
Yeah, I'd much rather that. I mean, I think it's getting to a point where if Azerbaijan continued the way it was, I wouldn't mind Azerbaijan going.
Yeah, I can't say I disagree. I know I like Azerbaijan though. I think it can produce a good race.
Do you know where it does produce a good race?
Where?
However, at times where it doesn't, I'm on the edge, and I think it's here for a historic factor.
What?
Is Imola?
That's a good race.
It's a good race. I don't know. For me, it doesn't hit a spot.
Why?
I don't know. I go to I watch Imola, and I don't know. There's a massive lull period for me.
I don't know. I think it's Imola's an interesting one. I think I think it's one of the more interesting races on the calendar.
It's got a potential. Well, we didn't get there this year because of the
floods.
No,
we didn't. No.
I feel like it always rains in Imola though.
Yeah, it does. It's that type of time of year, isn't
and
it?
that's another thing. I think wet races have been pretty poor recently in terms of
that's the FIA's fault.
When it's
though.
so wet, we don't race, and then it's not wet enough.
Yeah.
Or if it's when we do race and it's wet, we don't see any overtakes and it's boring.
To be fair though, speaking of Monaco, we almost had a wet race in Monaco this year, midway through, didn't we?
Yeah, that made it slightly more interesting.
Which made it quite interesting this year, but never happened. But it kept you on the edge of the seat.
I wouldn't mind getting rid of Australia.
Yeah, you don't like Australia.
I don't like Australia, and I don't like waking up that early.
You just don't want to wake up. Bro, it's one of the first races on the podcast.
The only races... Well, I don't mind waking up for Suzuka because that's actually quite a good track.
I love the Japanese Grand Prix.
I love Suzuka, yeah. But, yeah.
You can't get rid of Australia, though, because it's the only race in Oceania.
I know.
So you can't get rid of Australia.
I know.
And if you do, you have to replace it with another Australian circuit, or a New Zealand race. Because you've got to have a race in Australia.
Mind. I feel like Melbourne's just a bit...
It was a good race. It was.
I think the cars are too big for
Melbourne. That's another problem. It's like Monaco. The cars are too big for Melbourne now, I think. Overtaking's really difficult.
Well, they're supposed to be a bit smaller, aren't they, for 2026?
Yeah. Yeah, supposed to be. We'll see how that turns out.
Mm.
But it's an interesting one because I think it's a problem with a lot of the circuits now. But the thing is, you can't get rid of Monaco. You can't get rid of Melbourne. They're too iconic. So they add more.
Yeah.
And this is the issue. The cars are too big for those tracks.
They are.
And the thing is, I'm a hypocrite because I wouldn't get rid of them either. Because you can't get rid of Australia and you can't get rid of Monaco. So
I know. I'd get rid of Australia.
I know you would. But this brings us back to the Africa problem. There's no African Grand Prix at the moment.
Yeah.
In any African country. And that'd be the same issue with Oceania as well. There's no Oceanian Grand Prix.
Yeah, I could deal with that though.
So Australia, if you're Australian, what he's saying is he doesn't like you. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Yeah.
I am not saying that. I'm saying I don't like the track.
Yeah, no.
My uncle lives in Australia.
He does. Uncle Jack.